At number 10, we have the Greenbrier ghost. One day in January 1987, Mary Jane Heaster watched her daughter Zona's casket being lowered into the ground. The coroner reported her COD to be complications from childbirth, which didn't make sense because Mary knew her daughter had never been pregnant. Weeks after, Mary started experiencing apparitions from her daughter. In these apparitions, Zona slowly revealed how, why, and who had taken her life. Soon after, Mary testified in court, leading to the exhumation of Zona's body. The new autopsy report revealed bruises on her neck, which was also dislocated between the first and second vertebrae, as well as a crushed windpipe, confirming evidence of brutally enforced strength. Zona's husband, Shu, was later arrested and charged with the crime. Can you believe it? Like, this is perhaps one of the few cases where testimony from a ghost has reportedly helped lead to a conviction. Okay, up next we have the Berwyn Mountain UFO incident. Commonly labeled the Roswell incident, the Berwyn Mountain UFO case is one of the most significant of all time. On January 23, 1974, residents in a nearby town heard a large crashing noise and witnessed a bright light hovering in the sky. Now, ufologists believed that the British government recovered living alien bodies from the crash site, although it was said that the noise and shaking came from a 3.5 magnitude earthquake and that the lights must have been mistaken for either meteorites or hunting lamps. But many still believe that this was simply a cover story to mask more suspicious activity. Up at number 8, we have Bella and the Witch Elm. On April 18th, 1943, in Hagley, England, 4 young boys snuck into the Hagley woods and climbed up a witch hazel tree looking for birds' nests. Upon peering into the hollow tree trunk, they discovered the skeletonized remains of a woman. The authorities removed the woman's remains from the tree trunk, and while her identity was unknown, the locals referred to her as Bella. Reports stated she had been deceased for 18 months as a result of suffocation. Her case was never solved, and stranger even more is that at least since the 1970s, the phrase "who put Bella in the witch elms" has sporadically appeared written where the body was discovered. Alright, ever heard of the White House ghosts? Well, the White House is without a doubt one of the most famous haunted landmarks in the world. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill caught a glimpse of Abraham Lincoln's apparition when he climbed out of the bath naked and walked into the bedroom. He was startled by the sight before him and decided to say, "Good evening, Mr. President. You seem to have met me at a disadvantage." And then suddenly the apparition disappeared. Now, Churchill reportedly refused to sleep in the White House after that night, and the last reported sighting of Lincoln's ghost occurred in the 1980s by the operations foreman Tony Savoy. Thomas Edison, many inventions, but what about the ghost machine? Thomas Edison, as we know, is one of the greatest inventors of all time. In the 1920s, though, he wanted to create a machine that would allow for better communication between the living and those that had already passed on. He believed this invention would replace the Ouija board. There have been claims that he actually managed to invent the machine and that he shared it only with those he confided in most. However, there is no conclusive evidence to prove this. That means that technically the machine could be out there today, hopefully in the hands of the right person. Alright, at the halfway point, we have the lost dogs of Overtown Bridge. During the past 50 years, over 50 dogs have unexplainably jumped to their demise off of the Overtown Bridge in Milton, Scotland. According to reports, all of the dogs have jumped from almost the exact same spot, and most of them have been long-nosed breeds. Weird. Why? Now, many believe that the dogs have acted on impulse after being spooked or overcome by a supernatural presence on the bridge. Nowadays, most locals refuse to walk their dogs over the bridge, and can you blame them? If it were me, I would not cross that bridge with or without a dog. Moving on to the Enfield poltergeist. Between 1977 and 1979, 2 sisters, aged 11 and 13, claimed that a poltergeist was moving around furniture, channeling demonic voices, throwing rocks and toys in their room, and even making them levitate. Now, while many investigators believe that the girls were simply acting up and lied to get attention, there are a number of witnesses who supported their claims. Nevertheless, the story is one of the most documented hauntings of all time and has actually inspired a number of documentaries, movies, radio plays, and television programs. All right, if you've ever heard of an exorcism, this next one is for you, with the possession of Clara Germana Seely. In 1906, a 16-year-old girl named Clara Germana Seely, living in South Africa, confessed to her priest that she had made a pact with Satan. What? Now, according to a nun working at St. Michael's Mission, where this whole thing took place, Clara could suddenly understand and speak languages that she had no prior knowledge of. Records also state that she demonstrated clairvoyant abilities, levitated, and made ghastly demonic sounds. She could also not bear the presence of blessed objects and seemed imbued with extraordinary strength, even throwing people across the room with ease. Now, 2 Roman Catholic priests performed an exorcism which lasted 2 days, after which the demon was said to be abolished from Clara's body. Okay, at number 2, we have the Silver Pillen Ghost Train. The Silver Pillen Ghost Train is one of the most well-known urban legends in Stockholm, Sweden. Although the train was decommissioned in 1996, workers in abandoned subway tunnels still report seeing it after midnight. This particular train was unique because it was the only train of its time that had not been painted, so easily identifiable, right? Well, today, some claim that the ghost train has stopped late at night to pick up living passengers who have never been seen again, or who mysteriously get off the train months later, unaware of how long they've been gone or what has happened since. All right, and up at number 1, we have perhaps the creepiest to me, the mystery of Alyssa Lam. Alyssa Lam was a Chinese-Canadian student who was last seen on the 31st of January 2013 in the Cecil Hotel, which, if you don't know, tons of scary stuff has happened there. Look it up. All right, so let's go over what happened that day. She was caught on a security camera looking possessed or in some kind of altered state. Lam first entered the elevator, pressed an entire column of buttons, and then moved into a corner. She then peeked out of the elevator, looked both ways, and ran right back inside as if terrified of something. Moments later, she stepped out and was startled by something that we can't see. Lam then went back into the elevator and pressed all the buttons again, but the doors wouldn't close. Going out again into the hall, she creepily waved her hands, motioning to something or someone down the hall. Eventually, Lam stepped out of the frame permanently, at which point the elevator doors finally closed. And a moment later, the doors opened and closed twice again with no one there. Okay, so this is where it gets even more strange. On the morning of February 19th, an employee checked the hotel's water tank after receiving complaints from residents about the oddly colored, foul-smelling water. And guys, get this? He discovered her body. The report found no evidence of foul play, nor did it explain how she managed to get onto the roof, which was only accessible by hotel staff, or how she was even to get inside the water tank.
Okay, so starting off with the first story. So there's the tale of the Dulhan, or the bride, who stands on the roadside. She waits past midnight and she asks for a ride. Now these stories involve her dressed from head to toe in what's called a laljora, and her face is hidden under a gunga, and that's a sort of headscarf. And she's just standing there at night in the middle of the road asking for a ride. And of course someone eventually gives her a ride, and then the most creepy and unbelievable things happen to the unsuspecting person who was nice enough to pick her up. Crazy and creepy. It's like hard to believe. Like if you see somebody dressed up in a bride's outfit, do you just leave her? What if she actually is a bride? Then again, could be a ghost. The next story involves the churrail, and they have their feet pointing backwards and they're all deformed and all of that. And this kind of story involves these mysteriously beautiful yet creepy looking girls. And young boys constantly get fooled by them, especially late at night, unless they notice their feet. So apparently the dead giveaway of them not being exactly girls is that their feet are all messed up. So in some stories they're also called the Pichal Peri. There's also stories of these people who can stretch their arms to turn off lights and things like that. So apparently there are these beings who are so lazy that they can stretch their arms to do tasks that they don't want to get up to do. And this is another popular type of story in the world of Pakistani horror stories. These people live among us as normal human beings, but sometimes out of just sheer laziness, they stretch their arms right there in front of other people because sometimes they just don't really care. Now, not really super scary or anything like that, but just imagine like if you saw that like right in front of you, somebody just stretch to go get a mug from the cupboard and just look at you. What do? There's also the tales of jinns loving the Chanel perfume just as much as people do. And yeah, the company of Chanel probably doesn't like this one too much, but older adults commonly tell the younger ones to avoid wearing all that perfume because jinns love the smell of it. So many horror stories revolve around people who made that mistake. They put on the perfume, strong perfume, and they walked outside at night ready to have a good night out or whatever, but an unseen being follows their scent closely. There's also a popular tale that jinns love to attack people when they're chilling under a tree in the evening or at night time. Now this story still makes many Pakistanis shudder in fear, and a lot of them even to this day don't travel at night anywhere that they have a body of trees that are close together because they're just super scared about what may be hanging around those trees at night. There have been countless stories of people who had run-ins with invisible forces right under a tree. The story at number 5 talks about jinns who live in houses, and this is perhaps the worst one. Nobody wants this. Maybe it really wasn't your brother who ate that last piece of cake from the fridge and he's actually telling the truth. Like, have you ever wondered like why your keys or your glasses or something may be in a different place than where you remembered putting them? They say that jinns play these games if they're in your home. Why? Because, you know, just like human beings, they get a little bit bored sometimes and they just want to have some fun. But, you know, jinns usually keep to themselves, but if there are some in your house, you still may want to avoid asking it to reveal itself. That just might get real creepy real quick. I'd rather my keys or glasses go missing than to hear a jinn go like, I'm here. And I look and I'm like, I don't see anything. No, take my glasses and keys. It's okay. When dogs bark too much at night, they're probably seeing jinns or an undead spirit. Dogs or even cats are said to be able to see spirits, so sometimes a dog may be barking at nothing or a cat may be just staring at nothing at nighttime and you can't figure out what exactly they're barking at or what they're actually looking at, and it could be a jinn or another kind of spirit. So, you know, if you are sleeping at night and you really gotta go to the bathroom and you hear your dog just barking, yeah, just stay in bed till the morning time. Have you heard of the one about witches that love to wear gungru? And gungru are those bracelets or anklets that dancers wear and they jangle and shake, and this is something that causes people's stomach to almost jump out of their throats when they hear gungrus at nighttime. A witch could be approaching, or maybe not, who knows? Either way, this one gives even the most grown adults the chills. Now this next one is so creepy, and I'm glad I'm not a girl because it said that jinns love girls that have their hair out at nighttime. Elders warn girls to tie their hair at nighttime, and when they go outside at nighttime, yeah, tie up that hair because that's a big temptation for jinn. They like that. They think it's attractive. So maybe if you're a girl from Pakistan that you were told stories about girls that went to bed or went out at nighttime with your hair out and the jinns were playing with it. Glad I keep my hair really short. And finally, the number 1 creepy story is, you know, when you talk about jinns, apparently they gather around and listen. they're all curious and all that. So maybe if you read an article about them or something, or maybe if you're even watching an FTD Facts video about them. I don't know, did you feel that? Did you feel anything? Well, I'm not really talking about jinn. I'm kind of just like, I think I am actually talking about jinn. Okay, so I'm screwed pretty much, right? Did the lights just turn off?
At number 10, we have regional possession. This is a type of possession that can be very alarming and scary. It occurs as a seizure in your sleep when you can't really move or speak, and it happens so quick that it could be just seconds or minutes. And in most cases, if not at all, the jinn does this from the outside. Usually it's a flying type of jinn. Yeah, very scary. Now, moving on to number 9, we have projectory possession. This is a type of possession that a jinn takes possession of a person for a specific time period. It could be for hours during the day or night, then leaves the body and comes back the next day or the next week or the next month or the next year. And in some very rare cases, it doesn't come back at all. And the jinn, when it leaves the body, it can feel like a sensation similar to a sudden shaking or shivering in the legs, or it can feel like a big burst of air leaving your mouth. The possession type at number 8 is accompanying possession. The jinn permanently takes possession of one part of the body, like the leg, even the uterus or the spine of a person, or it can take possession of the entire body, day and night, whether you're sleeping or awake. It's almost like it becomes a part of your physical body completely. Number 7 brings us external possession. Now, external possession is a type of jinn possession where the jinn accompanies a person full-time or part-time. Now, the jinn has the ability to take the form of another human being or animal that can physically touch a person. Or the jinn can do things like sit on a person's back or press down on their chest. They also even whisper into a person's ear. Now, as mentioned, they do take on the form of animals, but this also goes to insects. They can take on those forms. They can become flies as well. And this one is particularly scary because in some cases, the jinns can bruise you or rip your clothing through external possession. The jinn can also take the form of a beautiful woman or a man to have intimate relations with their target. Moving on now to number 6, this is transistus possession. This is a type of possession where more than one person is haunted simultaneously by a jinn. And usually it happens to people who have close relationships to each other. This is why it's called transistus, meaning to pass over or crossing through. And it could be one or more jinn that can haunt a group or family or team of some sort in this type of possession. Moving on out to number 5, we have imaginary possession. Yeah, this is a type of delusion, and it's said to be the most common type of jinn possession, surprisingly. Like, for instance, imaginary epilepsy is a thing which is a result of interacting with those who are actually possessed, then starting to imagine that you yourself have those same exact symptoms, or maybe an exorcist or spiritual healer suggests to you that you are afflicted by a jinn. And it all starts with an idea, then it becomes a belief that you're possessed, and then you start acting as if you're possessed. Now, the next type of possession at number 4, false pretense. It's actually similar to imaginary possession that I just mentioned, but this time the person is conscious of what they're doing. Some people who do this, they go back and forth to their spiritual healers or exorcists with their own agenda in mind. They have their own goals. They continue to attend healing sessions, and they scream and they shout and they say that they're here for whatever reason. They're experiencing this, and really they're actually not possessed or afflicted by a jinn in any way at all. All of this is to seek attention from others or to have an excuse for their bad behavior. So yeah, that one is not really a type of possession, but you get what I mean. Now, number 3 is the presence of waswasa. Now, this means suggestions and whispering, and it is an overwhelming form of possession that is very stressful for a person. The jinn haunts a person, making them cry and laugh and become really, really angry without any explanation, and this happens at random times. This type of possession of the jinn could last for hours or days or for the whole lifespan of a person, and this causes severe anxiety and can even cause obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. So possession type at number 2 is brain influence. The jinn uses a person's brain to control the human senses, to control the nervous system, control the muscles. So yeah, this one is strictly to do with the brain and how the brain operates. But the possession type at number 1, also pretty similar to brain influence, well, we have mind influence. And this is a type of possession that the jinn doesn't actually possess the physical body or the nervous system or the brain or anything like that. This is strictly mental. So images can flash in a person's mind, or scenes of chilling events can be seen as if they are watching a movie. But nothing physical actually happens. It's just up in the mind. So yeah, it makes you wonder when all those people in your life have said that, hey, they've heard voices, maybe they've seen something, and you may have labeled it as them going crazy, but yeah, they could have been possessed by a jinn.